Hey guys, my name is Tyler Young. This is my first YouTube video. I'm going to be solving LeetCode problems, LeetCode, maybe HackerRank problems. Just basically solving problems that were hard to me at one point, but now I'm able to solve. I'm a computer science major at North Carolina A&T State University. Previously attended LSU, my freshman and sophomore years, and I'm a rising junior now. So, yeah, let's get straight into it. So the problem is saying, given an integer num rows, return the first num rows of Pascal's triangle. In Pascal's triangle, each number is the sum of the two numbers directly above it, as shown. So here, the first row is just one. The second row is one one. Okay, so it seems like the first number in each row is going to be one, and then the last number in each row is going to be one. So you have one here, first and last, one for the second one, and then the third one, first and last, is one with two, because one plus one is equal to two. This row is one, three, because one plus two is equal to three, and then three again because two plus one here, and then one again because that's the last element. And then for the last one, 1 plus 3 is equal to 4, 3 plus 3 is equal to 6, and 3 plus 1 is equal to 4. Okay. So basically to start this problem, it's asking me to return an array of arrays, or array lists, I guess. Um, and each array list inside of the array list would be a row. So the first one is 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1 in this example, and then the number of rows is 5. So that's what they're giving in here. Okay. So I guess first you could start off by creating the list. So integer, and then we can call it try for triangle. New array list. Okay. And then so we see here how the first row is one. So I don't think that's ever going to change. So I'm just going to create a first row that just has one inside of it. So integer first row. And I'm going to go over all of this again once I am finished. New array list. Okay, and then basically you would just want to add one to that. So first row dot add one. Before this though, I guess you would want to check, okay, if the num rows is equal to 0, then at that point we don't even have anything, so just return the triangle empty. Okay, so here we're adding the first row. We're adding the one to the first row. And then from here, let's see. So for the second row, it would be 1, 1. All right. So like I was saying before, you would always want the first element and the last element to be 1. So basically, I think what we're gonna have to do here is loop through this, and so for int I is equal to 1, I is less than num rows, I plus plus, and we're starting at 1 because of what I said before. We're adding 1 to the beginning and the end, and basically if you start at 0, then you're starting at where that 1 is supposed to be. So I'm starting at 1. And then here, so I guess you could start off by keeping track of the previous row. So let's go integer. So list integer previous. We could just call it pre row. That sounds good. Pre row is equal to, so triangle dot get I minus 1. Remember, I is starting at 1, so it's going to get the first row, which is index 0. And then I guess we can have a current row, right? So integer current is equal to new array list. Okay. So like I was saying, you want to, let me make this smaller, yes. Okay. So like I was saying, you want to add 1 as the first element. So I guess you can current row dot add 1, right? And then from there, that is when you would want to start creating the new elements from the previous row. So how in this example, it has 2 in the middle of 1 and 1 because it added the 1 and 1 from the previous row behind that. And then for this one, it's 3 and 3 because it added the 1 and 2 from the row behind that. So, okay, so int j is equal to 1. And then j is less than. So j has to be less than I. And I'm going to explain that in a second. So j plus plus. Let me just write that out. So j has to be less than I. Because say in the first example, say where I is equal to 1, right? And we're in the second row. The index for the second one that is supposed to be in there is already 1. So for that second row, we wouldn't even want to go into this for loop. That's why j is less than I. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but I'm gonna explain that again at the end. So for this, I'm gonna explain the third row though. So the third row, I would be equal to 2, and j would start at 1, because if it started at 0, it'd be starting at this first 1 element that we already added right here on this line, right? So it's gonna start at the first element that we're supposed to be adding the 2 numbers ahead, like before in the previous row, right? So for this element right here, 2, you're adding 1 and 1, and that's how you get the 2, and then the last element is always gonna be 1. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm gonna explain that again at the end, just to make sure you guys understand everything. So basically, you just want to add to the current row. So current row dot add. So it'd be the previous row. Don't jump on my computer. I have a cat, and I think he's trying to jump on my computer and run my code. So previous row. I lost my train of thought because of that. Oh yeah, previous row dot get. Oh, watch out! Don't do that! Don't do that! Don't dot get j. No! Watch out, cat! Watch out! Yeah. So current row dot add previous row dot get j minus 1. That's what it's supposed to be. Let me move this. Okay. So j minus 1 plus previous row dot get j. And this is because at for this example right here, at element 1, at index 1, it's supposed to be equal to 2, right? Because j minus 1, if j is 1, j minus 1 is equal to 0. So at index 0 in the previous row, 1, and plus the next integer after that, so 1 and 1 in this case would be equal to 2, and that's how you get that 2 element in the row. So after that, I guess all you would have to do is add that second one to, the one that's supposed to be at the end of the row. I promise, guys, I will get better at explaining these things as well as we go on. This is my first video, but I'm trying my best as we go. So current row dot add 1, because that's supposed to be the last element, and then I guess at that point you would just want to add it to the triangle. So current row, triangle dot add current row, just add the row to it, and then that should work. Just return triangle, right? And let's see if that works. Okay, where did I go wrong? Line 14. Let me see. Current row. Oh, I thought I named this current row for some reason. Okay, current row. Okay. Index out of bounds. Let's see. Where did I go wrong here? My spelling, J. Let's see here. Activate. Oh. I never even added the first row. Okay. Triangle dot add first row. First row. Sorry about that, guys. So yeah, you wanted to make the first row 1, and then obviously add it to the triangle. That was my mistake. That should be fine now. Okay, it accepted it. Now let's run. Submit. Okay, yep. And that's how you solve that problem. So I'll go over it one more time. All right, so to go over this one more time, so we're gonna create the array list for the triangle, right? And then we're gonna create the array list for the first row, which is going to be equal to 1, right? So if the number of rows is equal to 0, then we're going to return the empty triangle. Then we're going to add the 1 to the first row. And I'll show you why we're doing that outside of this for loop here. And then obviously we're just going to add the first row to the triangle. So going into this for loop here, we're starting at j is equal to 1 and j is less than I. Now j has to be less than I because i's index is always going to be the equal to the index of the last value inside of the row. Now I know that was kind of confusing, but I'm going to say it again. I's index is going to be the last index in the row. So if the row has 2 elements in it, the last index is going to be 1. And we're starting off with j is equal to 1, right? And we're currently at the second row. So j is less than I, and I is equal to 1 as well. We're not even going to go through this for loop. We're going to skip over this and just add the second one, because the first and the last value in each row has to be equal to 1, and the second row only has 2 values. So we have just the 1, skip the for loop, and the 1, and then we add it to the triangle. And then we go on to have previous row now equal to the row we just created, 1, 1. And current row, we just create that. Add the first one to it. Add the first one to the current row. J is equal to 1 and I is now equal to 2. So this is going to go through once, and it's going to add to current row so the 2 elements that need to be added that's at this current index right now from the previous row are going to be added. So I know that was kind of complicated, but in the second row here, you see they have 1, 1, and the current index that we're at is 1 in the third row. So we're trying to add a j previous row dot get j minus 1, which is 0. So at index 0 in the previous row, and we're trying to add previous row dot get j, which is 1, which is this one here. So it's 1 plus 1, which is equal to 2, and that's how you get that value in between this 1 and 1. And then this only ran one time, so then we're just going to add the 1. So now that third row is equal to 1, 2, 1, and then we're going to add that to the triangle, and then we're going to keep doing that, so on and so forth. And then you just return the triangle at the end. Well, yeah, that's how I understand how to do it. I hope you guys understand. Try to subscribe to my channel if you found this helpful. It's my first video. I'm going to get better at explaining. See you guys. Chivalry is dead.